Hey trackies, welcome back to another video. Please remember to smash that subscribe button, hammer, smash. Hit the like button as well. That's how the video gets to the YouTube algorithm. Share the video if you care. I hope you all care, so share. I'm not just saying that trackies. Make sure so not tell all on the family, all on the friend them, and then fit them family and fit them friend them to get in on two. TXT track time. Also trackies, sound off in the comment section below. So the National Senior Championships, aka Trials, is a stone throw away. Stone, you did right there. So less than 2 weeks away. And of course, I'm excited to cover it for yet another year and discuss, how we think things will go. But before we get to that, track is one athlete that's a topic of discussion, Christopher Taylor. Which event will he be participating in at the National Senior Championships? Clearly, he came back from a 2.5 year ban and banged out a 45-6 performance. And then there were the whispers that, hey, Chris is actually interested in competing in the 1-2. Well, guess what, track is? He's registered and he will be competing in the dun, 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 100 meters and 200 meters. Now, for me, track is it's an absolute no-brainer. And yes, it's a no surprise as well because there were whispers also in my ear that, yeah, man, he's coming out for that 1-2. But to be fair, Christopher Taylor did allude to him, potentially transitioning from the 4 to the 1-2 from, I believe, back in 2022 before he picked up that ban, right? So it should be no surprise that he's actually, more interested and inclined in competing in this event. Plus, also, he did compete at the Racers Grand Prix, and that was to show himself and his coach if he does indeed stand a viable shot at competing over that, 200 meters slash 100 meters. I'm focusing more on the two. I don't think he can really make an impact in the 100 meters this year from a Jamaican perspective. However, for the two, I definitely think they saw what they needed to see at Racers Grand Prix. And yes, that's where he will be competing. However, now there are, thought processes online whether or not, this is actually the best decision for Christopher Taylor competing in the 2 versus the 4. As I said, he came out, banged out a 45-6, putting himself right in the conversation with the best guys in Jamaica right now competing. And he stands a solid shot of making top 3 to represent Jamaica in that event. However, for me, personal track is it's a no-brainer, as I said, because the 400 meters is not what Christopher Taylor left it at in 2023. It's a whole different ball game. Now, I'm going to explain to y'all or give y'all example of what happened in 2024 at the Olympic Games just to make it to the finals and then what happened in the finals of both the men's 400 meters and the 200 meters. Now, kicking things off with the men's 400 meters, as I said, we in a one different realm right now. So, in the men's 400 meters, the fastest time heading into the finals was a 43.78 seconds done by Kirani James from Grenada, with the slowest time making it into the finals from Nigeria, Samuel Ogazi Chakis, where he ran a 44.41 seconds. So if you weren't running faster than 44.41 seconds, and a lot of times we see for the 400 meters where the times tend to be quite quicker, especially for most of the athletes, just to make it into the finals. So no surprise that they ran this fast, but if you weren't going to go this fast or if you can't go this fast, then you wouldn't have made it into the finals. Now, in comparison, when we go to the men's 200 meters to see exactly what happened there, the fastest time actually making it in was Leslie Toboho from Botswana, clocking a 19.96 seconds. And the slowest time from Zimbabwe was Charamba, and he ran a 20.31 seconds. So, track is, do you hear? There's an obvious difference. As far as I'm concerned, there's a threshold when it comes to major sprinting in each event, or each event in general, right? Sub 20 and of course sub 45, right? So if you had only one athlete in the semifinals for the 200 meters going sub 20, and we had all the athletes going, sub 45 in the 400 meters, even sub 44. That tells you how much, better when it comes to, performances the 400 meter was in 2024 versus the 200 meters. But anyway, as I said, that is what happened in 2024 in the semifinal for both of those events. Now, in the actual finals for the 200 meters, let's see, Little Boho walked away with the win there. And I do recognize, Jackie, that sometimes the performances are indeed faster, in the semifinal round. However, for the most part, top three tend to go faster in the finals. So in the finals, let's see that Toboho ran a era record 19.46 seconds with Kenny Benerick second 19.62 and Noah Lyles third 19.70. So that's what happened for top three in the men's 200 meters with the eighth position 20.53 seconds. That's what happened in the men's 200 meters. No, when we jump on over to the men's 400 meters, it got even crazier, trackies. It got even crazier with five men going sub 44. Yep, we had Quincy Hall from America taking it 43.40. Matthew Hudson 43.44 for second. From Zambia, Mulazala, he ran a 43.74 national record. And of course, Jareem Richardson, 43.78 national record for him. And Kirani James, 43.87 for fifth. For fifth in the men's 400 meters. Crazy, crazy performances in the 400 meters at the Olympic Games. The eighth and final position trackies in that race was a 45.62 seconds. As I said, sometimes, times or performances don't end up being as fast, but I believe for the majority perspective, the times are better, right? No. So that's what happened, as I said, in the 400 meters. So if you're not prepared, to run, sub 45, and I mean maybe like 44 mid, just to make it into the actual finals for the 400 meters and prepared to go, sub 44 to actually be on the podium, then it's not going to happen in the men's 400 meters. Now, for the men's 200 meters, things are a bit better, or I think the athletes can, fare a bit better because in the finals, only four athletes actually dipped below, 20 seconds, with Aaron Knighton only running a 19.99 seconds for fourth place. And all the other athletes, as I said, did not dip below 20 seconds. So that's what happened in 2024. Let's look at how things look right now from a sprinting perspective globally in both the 400 meters and the 200 meters. And I want to note, yes, I believe that faster performances are to come because we haven't had, the Jamaica Senior Championships. And of course, there are a few Diamond Leagues to come. And most importantly, there has yet to come the USA Championships, where I believe a lot of the fastest times in the world will be coming out of that event. But only three can, represent. Let's keep that in mind. So far for 2025 in the men's 200 meters, the fastest time is a 19.83 seconds. Yep. That's the fastest time so far in 2025. And again, only nine athletes so far have dipped below 20 seconds. No, there's no guarantee, that all these athletes here will actually be representing, because a number of athletes here are actually American. And as I said, only three can represent. And then if you have the defending champion from the World Championships, or you get a Diamond League bye, will your country get four representatives? But for the most part, only three people will be repping. But as I said, only nine people so far have officially dipped below 20 seconds for 2025. Now, trackies, let's go over to that men's 400 meters. As I said, the threshold, in my opinion, for high quality sprinting in the men's 200 meters is sub 20, and the threshold for the 400 meters, maybe we need to start adjusting it, but anyway, it's sub 45, right? But given what we're seeing now, maybe, as I said, we need to start adjusting it to maybe 44 mid, you know what I mean? Because these men are literally going 43 seconds, right? So anyway, for 2025, a whole 37 athletes so far have dipped below 45 seconds. So we have 9 for the 200 dipping below 20 seconds, with the fastest time being a 19.83. And we have 39 athletes on the 400-meter side dipping below 45 seconds, with the fastest time so far this season being a 43.76 seconds. It's a no-brainer for me, Trackies, as it relates to where Christopher Taylor is going to have an impact. It certainly ain't the 400 meters, at least not this year. Maybe if, he competes in it a bit more, 2025 to, no, 2026, sorry, heading into, 2027, then yeah, he'll be able to get into maybe 43, second rank. But as things stand right now, not for 2025, in my opinion, will he be able to have an impact in that men's 400 meters globally, right? And of course, we haven't even discussed whether or not he has a shot of really viably making it out of, just qualification from the Jamaica Senior Championships. So, track is when we look at what's going on from a local perspective, let's rein things in. Yes, we've been looking at what happened, from an international perspective, but realistically, first you have to qualify, right? So, when we look at what's going on from a 400 meters perspective in Jamaica versus a 200-meter perspective, it's literally so close that you probably can't even call who is going to make the team for the men's 400 meters versus the 200 meters that in my opinion looks like a much clearer path to potentially qualifying for the world championships, and the upside for Christopher Taylor, right? Again, we're seeing him compete. We've seen him compete over the 200 meters twice so far, and he actually looks very good competing in the men's 200 meters. Now, when you tuck on, a couple weeks of speed work, some flying 30s, that's how they describe it. What do y'all think is going to happen for Christopher Taylor when he heads to, the national championships? Don't you think we'll have a Christopher Taylor that, if not sub 20, is going to definitely, one, be at that qualification mark, which is 20.16 seconds, and close to sub 20? In my opinion, he can definitely get to sub 20 at the national senior championships. But forget the national senior championships, because as I said, it's easy peasy breezy in my mind for Christopher Taylor to actually make that team. And don't get me wrong, Chuck, is I know it's a lot of hard work, just to compete at that level, right? But tack on a couple more months to the World Championships, and what kind of Christopher Taylor do you think we're going to see? What type of Christopher Taylor do you think we're going to see at the World Championships? Track is definitely sub 20. And as I said, my early call was 19.8. But given what I'm seeing so far, I may have underestimated him. He could be potentially faster, which will check is put him right up there in the ranks of competing, in my opinion, for making it to the finals. And not only that, track is he's like the ultimate super athlete that you want on your team anyway. And yes, I know he suffers from asthma, so we have to be careful with how much we use him. But think about it. Christopher Taylor ain't putting on the 400 meters anytime soon. After all, he still has designs of becoming the national record holder over that 400-meter distance, which means that we have an ultimate buffer for the 4x4 team, though we haven't qualified. Oh, wait, well, no, we qualified. Yes, we qualified the men. So we have the ultimate buffer for the men's 4x4, and then the ultimate backstretch guy for the men's 4x1. Now, as I said, don't get me wrong, it's going to be tough right now, to compete against the likes of a Shane, an Oblique, a Brian Lavelle, and a Keem Blake. It's definitely going to be tough. Oh my gosh, look at that order. Is that the order in my brain right now? I'm so sorry, Akeem. I haven't even done my preview yet. Mind, why are you doing this to me? Anyway, guys, as I said, it's gonna be tough right now, for him to get in onto that major four that I'm looking at in my mind. But he can definitely be like running in maybe, a heat run for the 4x100 meters, at least for 2025, right? For 2025. We're not gonna talk about 2026 because as far as I'm concerned, he'll only be getting better as time goes on, right? So for 2025, right now, he is that ultimate guy that you need on the team, and he will be competing, as far as I'm concerned, very strongly for Jamaica in the 4x4 and, of course, the 4x100 meters if given the opportunity. He can be, the female version of Alison Felix, for Team America, where she was just, popping on a 4x1 and then jumping off a 4x1 and jumping on a 4x4 and doing, ridiculous splits. Yeah, that will be our guy, Christopher Taylor. So, yeah, I'm not surprised that he'll be competing in the 200 meters and the 100 meters. And and I definitely think he stands a better shot, a better opportunity of having a mark, especially on the field globally in the 200 meters over the 400 meters in 2025. Anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Given, what I've shown you, what's going on from a 400-meter perspective globally and a 200-meter perspective globally, and where we think, Christopher Taylor could potentially, be by the time we get to World Championships, providing he qualifies. Which event do you actually think he's better suited at? The 4 or the 2? Let me know. Like the video, of course, and subscribe to the channel. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.